And a very happy Thursday to you at 12:09 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios, where it's a cathartic feeling to sit down and play cards for hours on end. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, it is a very celebratory day in Southern California because Los Angeles is number one. Do you want to know what we're number one at?
Wait, did we surpass Oakland at getting rid of cars that have been set on fire and left on city streets?
No, that is the best thing Oakland's ever done.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
But Los Angeles actually beat out Oakland and San Francisco to become the number one city in the country for retail crime.
We're number one. We're number one.
Oakland and San Francisco are number two.
You may be frightened, and I know how you feel.
Okay, if this continues and they end up shutting all the Rite Aids down, not just some of them, where the hell am I supposed to get my ice cream? I like the McFlurries, but it's not the same. They don't have the chocolate malted crunch and the mint and chip and all of the other flavors that hit me right in the erogenous zone. We got to find a way to stop this. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. All right, I want to start out the show by linking something going on locally to something going on nationally, because it's easy to look all around you and to feel like you live in an insane asylum because nobody behaves rationally. The only people behaving rationally right now are the criminals. They know they can pretty much get away with anything and nothing bad is going to happen to them. So from the point of view of the vocation of being a criminal, those people are acting quite rationally. The people getting robbed who just let it happen were the irrational actors because usually you like your stuff and you want to protect it, but for whatever reason, we've decided to go in a different direction. And one of the criticisms and one of the questions that we get all the time on this program is, why is it that the people around us who understand that everything is going to hell continue to vote for the same people that allow the world to go to hell? It happens time and time again. We think we've hit rock bottom, to borrow one of Rob Bonta's cliches, but there is no rock bottom. We just keep dropping and dropping and dropping. It's a never-ending hole. Like for you Masters of the Universe fans, what happened over in He-Man land. And part of the reason that that's the case is because people do not think rationally when they cast their votes. They just don't. You understand the problems that your community's facing, but the tribal pull, whether it be partisanship, whether it be for incumbents, whether it be for your preferred gender or sexual orientation or race or a subject that has nothing to do with anything going on in the news right now, but you feel very strongly about it, that's how you end up casting your vote. You are totally disassociated from the world around you when you go and vote because that's the way God made us. We see it time and time and time again. Even in areas where you can send any news van from any of the news channels and interview any of the people who have just been robbed, and they go, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. I cannot believe that people are allowed to break into my small business and steal all my stuff, and then even if you catch them, nothing's happened. Well, how did you vote? Well, I voted for Prop 47, and I voted for Prop 57. And I voted for the Democrats in the state legislature who kill any bill that aims to keep people in prison longer. And I voted for Rob Bonta, and I voted for Gavin Newsom. But I recognize that there's a problem. It's easy to think that those people have a monopoly on stupid voting, on voting against yourself, on voting against your own self-interests. But it's not just them, and it doesn't just happen here. So for once, I'm going to give those people a pass. because I want to compare what's going on here right now to what those idiots in Congress have been doing over the last month with the speaker situation. Because they're acting the same way as the people who get mugged and then go out and vote for Rob Bonta. Hear me out. Let's start with the Republicans. The Republicans have control of 1/2 of 1/3 of the government right now. The Democrats control the White House. The Democrats control the U.S. Senate. And the courts, well, the Supreme Court leans to the right, but depending on which other system in the courts you're talking about, there are some that are lean right, that are some that are lean left. So it's hard to say, well, the courts are Republican, because the Ninth Circuit is not, and others are. So let's just talk about the people who put their names on the ballot. Democrats control the White House. They control the Senate. Republicans control the House. Kevin McCarthy from Bakersfield was the Republican that was elected to be the Speaker of the House. A lot of people had a lot of problems with Kevin McCarthy before he was elected Speaker, and those problems, it was a long list of problems, let's face it. Some people didn't like him because they thought he was too politically moderate. Some people didn't like him because he came from California, and they thought, why should someone from a blue state be in charge of a Republican-controlled House? Some people didn't like him because they think he's too obsessed with raising money and doesn't care enough about policy. Some people didn't like him because he has burned them at some point in the past when they've had some sort of deal with him. Some people don't like him because he has shown an inability to correctly count votes when votes have mattered. Go back to the infrastructure bill. He had absolutely no idea how his caucus was going to vote on that. So there are a lot of people that had a lot of problems with Kevin McCarthy. That being said, from the point of view of the Republicans, he was exceeding all of their expectations after being elected Speaker. He didn't make any huge mistakes. He was out successfully raising money. He managed the redrawing of the congressional lines in a pretty bang-up way that benefited Republicans. He was able to get initiatives that they care about through, put an emphasis on the border. There were things that Kevin McCarthy did that should have excited all Republicans in that chamber from all sides of the political spectrum. But you had a small group of people who really hated Kevin McCarthy. If you're a Republican and you're in that chamber, what you want is you want your people to advance your ideas and not create any drama. You don't want drama because Grampy Joe is imploding right now. He's losing in every purple state that matters with the exception of Nevada. If the election were held today, Grampy Joe would lose Michigan and Wisconsin and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Ohio and Georgia, Arizona, all the states that matter. So if you're a Republican, you just want to keep things going on the current path and not rock the boat. Do what you can do about the border, block their spending plan so inflation doesn't get any worse, and focus on Joe's problems like a laser beam without making your dysfunction the topic du jour. But because Matt Gaetz and a handful of Republicans, and it wasn't just all the conservatives, by the way. Nancy Mace is a complete flake and bimbo who has no particular ideology. Generally, she's thought of as being a moderate or a liberal Republican, but she voted with Gaetz and the Democrats too because McCarthy burned her in some capacity. So instead of acting rationally and sticking with the program and letting Grampy Joe lose the election and gaining control of the White House and keeping control of the House, what did the Republicans do? They decided to have a circular firing squad and take Kevin McCarthy out with absolutely no plan on what to do next. From a point of view of acting rationally, they acted about as irrationally as possible, given the circumstances of what we're dealing with. And now they have a new speaker after days and days and days of no speaker, whose main calling card is being a hawk on abortion and being a guy who's going to cut off the money to the Ukraine. Now that will make people happy who want those two things to happen. And fine by you. Those are two things that people feel very strongly about. The abortion thing killed Republicans in the last election, and Ukraine is an ongoing developing situation. But the irrational behavior of Matt Gaetz and the Republicans that voted to dump Kevin McCarthy took all of the pressure and the heat off Grampy Joe and put it on them and their dysfunction.
Quite frankly.
So that was unbelievably irrational, and it was Republicans acting stupid, as Republicans do in elected positions. But the Democrats, they're just as brain dead. If you're the Democrats and you're sitting in Washington, D.C., you don't control the House of Representatives. That's the one branch of government you don't have a say in. Yes, you're a minority, and yes, you can cobble together coalitions to defeat legislation with the Democratic caucus and a handful of Republicans on occasion, so you have a say in that regard, but you don't control that House. Whoever the Speaker of the House is going to be a Republican. It is not going to be Hakeem Jeffries. It's not going to be Nancy Pelosi. It's not going to be any of the people they like. It's going to be a Republican. So let's look at this rationally. If you're in the minority and you know the Speaker of the House is going to be a Republican, wouldn't you want that Republican to be someone who will give you some of what you want? Not all of what you want, because you're never going to get that, but some of what you want. So Kevin McCarthy is the one that they elect to be Speaker. Okay? Democrats hate him because he's the Republican who's in charge, and they're the opposition party, and oh boy, do we hate Kevin McCarthy. So Matt Gaetz comes to you and says, hello, Democrats. What do you say we form a cabal together and we dump Kevin McCarthy? Well, the Democrats jumped at the opportunity to work with Matt Gaetz and dump their enemy, Kevin McCarthy. But those idiots and fools never thought about what would come next. Because, again, whoever replaces Kevin McCarthy is likely to be someone that is going to give them none of what they want, as opposed to someone who will give them some of what they want. But because they couldn't resist the urge of sticking it to the Republican who is currently in charge, they decided to vote with Matt Gaetz, create the chaos, and make Republicans look like fools and make the House look like a clown show, which they achieved. And their reward for making the House look like a clown show is to elect a guy who hates abortion and is going to cut off all of the funding to Ukraine. So the reward for Democrats is to make sure that they have absolutely none of what they want, as opposed to a couple of crumbs here and there. From the point of view of Democrats, they just screwed themselves royally. When given the opportunity to act rationally, none of them did it. All of them ended up voting against their own self-interests because they just couldn't help themselves. Couldn't help themselves, couldn't resist the partisan urge to screw over their opponent when given the opportunity. But when you screw over your opponent to given the opportunity, sometimes you have to live with the consequences. And usually, you're not going to like them. So, okay, let's go back to California for a second. Rob Bonta ran against a Republican candidate for Attorney General. He ran against Nathan Hochman. And Democratic voters in California go, we can't have a Republican be Attorney General of California, even though we recognize that crime is totally out of control and Bonta is a complete fool with no idea on what to do about it. But the urge of making sure the Republicans don't win is a stronger pull than making sure my community is safe. So they vote for Bonta, and the result that they get is they get a community that is a war zone. That's what they end up with. It is amazing how often human beings do that to themselves. And not just the unsophisticated people that vote that don't pay attention to a lot of what's going on. Members of Congress, you're talking about people who are lawyers, people who are medical doctors, people who are judges, people who are business people, people who worked for politicians, people who, in theory, understand the way that politics work. And they, when given the opportunity to cast a ballot, are just as dumb as the people of California who vote for all the chaos. It's on, with rare exception, and I was actually looking through the political science journals recently to figure out when people actually vote in their own self-interest, because it happens so rarely. The only time that people vote in their own self-interest, given everything that all of these academics have ever studied, it's two instances. One, people do it when there is a financial regulation or rule that directly impacts them. So Democrats will vote for Prop 13 if they are a homeowner. They just will. Smokers will not vote for taxes on cigarettes because it will directly impact them. If there is something that is disassociated from partisan politics that directly impacts you financially, you will vote in your own self-interest. That's one instance. The only other time where people vote in their own self-interest is when it comes to issues of war. Your kid is turning 18, one candidate supports the draft, the other does not, and your country is at war. That will cause you to change your vote if you would otherwise go the other way. Outside of that, it's very difficult to get people to do something that would actually benefit them and their family and their community. You know, there's an old saying, 3 men are told that they have exactly 1 day left on the planet. An Englishman, a Frenchman, and a Russian. The Englishman says, well, I'm going to spend that day with my dog walking through the park. I want to spend my last day with the entity that I love most on planet Earth, and that's my dog, and we're going to go for a walk in the park. The Frenchman says, I'm going to get the best bottle of wine I can get my hands on and the most beautiful woman and spend the last day with the great bottle of wine and a beautiful woman. And the Russian, when asked what they would do with their time on the last day of the planet, said, I would burn down my neighbor's house. When we go and vote, we're the Russian, and we would burn down our neighbor's house. Somehow, some way, we got to find a way to resist that impulse when we vote here in California. Otherwise, the Gascons, the Bontas, the Newsoms, the legislatures, they're going to be there forever, and they're going to spend all of their time tormenting us, and somehow we're going to feel good about that vote. And in Congress, if they don't get their act together, they're going to continue to look like a bunch of clowns who have no ability to govern the nation. But you got to resist the impulse to burn down your neighbor's house when given the opportunity. And Randy, the weekend is getting closer and closer. We're not going to be producing live shows on Saturday and Sunday, But if you want to hear us, you can do that.
That's right. You can listen to podcasts of this show. Go to KABC.com, click on podcast, or go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. Or even easier than that, search for the KABC app in the Apple or Android app stores. And it's the easiest way to listen live when we're broadcasted from noon to 3 here, anytime you're outside of the AM 790 radio listening area. And you can download all the podcasts of the show. It works on your phone. It works on CarPlay. It's great. And you know what? It is perfect background listening for no matter what you're doing on the weekend. Whether your pants are down.
Caught me with my pants down.
Or your pants are up.
My pants are now up.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
790 KABC welcomes Mariah Carey. Merry Christmas, one and all, at the Hollywood Bowl on November 19th. Tickets are on sale Friday at Ticketmaster.com. Right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. This is, of course, furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
And Randy, coming up in the month of November, you and I, we're going on the road.
That's right. Save the date. John and I will be broadcasting live Friday, November 17th at the brand new Gelson's West LA at West Edge on the corner of Olympic and Bundy. That store, by the way, opens November 1st, this Wednesday. So if you live in the West Side, you've got a brand new gorgeous Gelson's. We're going to be there Friday, November 17th from noon to 3 in their massive wine bar, seating for many, many, many people. It's even bigger than the last one. So save the date, take the day off of work, come on down and see us Friday, November 17th at the Gelson's in West LA at West Edge.
All right, it is time to open up the KABC Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, today's edition is so dramatic, we're going to have to play 2 raps to explain all the insanity.
So when I go in the morning and look through all the YouTubes of our local news channels to see the crazy stories that are out there, I listen to several different versions of a story to see who has the most concise information, who's got the best rap, is it an Ed Laskos, things like that. And there's so much going on in this one insane story that we need multiple perspectives because they have different information in both of them that is very important to this case. And it's a story that is quite shocking and quite surprising, even for all the insanity we experience every single day. This is definitely one of those I never thought that could happen situations where a car was intentionally rammed on the 10 freeway, and then when they pull over, they were robbed.
That is like level upon level upon level of criminality and insanity.
We don't even have a term for what the hell happened yesterday. I guess we could call it a crash robbery. I don't know. But they have people, maybe this is because there are so many stolen cars out there, they don't mind using one as a battering ram to get someone to pull over on the side of the road where they're vulnerable, and then you point weapons at them and say, give me everything you've got.
Could you imagine driving on the freeway, and we're all taught if there is a fender bender, there's an accident, you're supposed to pull over, you're supposed to exchange information, you're not supposed to call 911, and then your insurance company works it out with their insurance company. That's what's in the DMV handbook. That's what you're taught when you take your driver's ed course. That's what you're supposed to do. But if you do what you're supposed to do, Randy, you might get robbed.
That's right. As producer Lewis says, it's literal highway robbery. That's not bad.
You know, my grandpa once had a tire shop, and the name of the tire shop was Highway Rubbery.
You know, you could make a couple of different things sell well at that store. All right, let's start with ABC 7 Eyewitness News on this insane story that happened on the 10 freeway.
New video of a crazy robbery on the 10 freeway in Arlington Heights. Shocking video showing 4 men in ski masks run out after authorities say they intentionally crashed into another car. The armed men then rob the victim and drive away.
What the hell is this?
Complete insanity, the breakdown of civilization. What else would you like?
But you are in a situation, I hate to credit the horrible people that did this, but it's not likely, especially when the freeway's in a traffic jam, that a police officer is going to be able to do anything about this situation or get to where you are when you're on the shoulder of a freeway.
No, if they pick you, you're a sitting duck.
Eyewitness News reporter Eric Resendiz has more of the video and new details on what happened. Eric?
Ellen, the suspects in this brazen robbery are still on the loose. The California Highway Patrol says the suspects were armed when the incident happened. What looks like a movie set happened in real life, a robbery on the freeway. It took place in the middle of the day Tuesday afternoon during moving traffic. Video shows 4 suspects wearing masks jump out of this black van. They run to the black sedan that crashed. You can see them searching the crashed car. Then they surround a person on their knees with their hands up. CHP is investigating.
This is so complicated. Why wouldn't you just go rob a Nordstrom's?
Well, because if you shut down all the Nordstroms because they've been robbed one too many times, you figure people still have to go to work.
CHP is investigating this incident as vehicular assault with robbery. We talked with the witness who recorded the incident, and he wants to remain anonymous. The witness says he started recording 3 minutes before the crash.
When I seen a black car speeding right past me, it had a flat tire, and it happened to have another SUV chasing them. I thought I was on the movie scene or something. I thought I was about to get paid for acting or something.
What?
Not the brightest man on the street, but hey, he had the relevant video.
So he saw something crazy and started filming, and I don't think he ever thought in his life he would capture what happened next.
He thought he was going to see Vin Diesel.
It was real as it gets, because that's how it is in Los Angeles.
Okay, he's right on that point.
It was real as it gets, because that's how it is in Los Angeles.
That might be a drop in the future. I like this guy.
CHP says the black Dodge Caravan intentionally made the driver of this luxury car, a black Alfa Romeo, crash on the I-10 eastbound.
Just wait. Michael Moore is going to come out and say it is not safe in Los Angeles to drive luxury cars anymore. Go get a beater.
Oh, this is one of the reasons why I'm perfectly happy driving in a 12-year-old Ford, because you just blend in. Nobody looks at you as if you're a target. You're not on the radar of the cops. You're just someone who's out there in some car that doesn't give anyone any kind of impression at all, other than the fact that you don't care about how anyone else perceives you.
Near Arlington Avenue, officials say a Ford Mustang was also struck. The suspects took off in a white-colored Chevrolet Malibu. The witness says the victim was an older man.
So they have the van as a battering ram. They probably stole it. And as soon as they make the hit and they pull over, they've got a getaway car that's also with them on the freeway.
And they picked an old man as the victim, assuming he wouldn't have a gun or an ability to fight back.
The old man, he didn't put up any fights. He put his hands up, and he let them take what they took, and they got on about their business and took off on the freeway.
And CHP says the suspects were armed with a hammer and a crowbar. There are more questions than answers. Investigators don't know what the suspects stole, and they don't know if the victim and the suspects know each other. Luckily, nobody was injured. Anyone with information is urged to contact CHP.
So the thing that I heard from that rap that really stuck out was the victim in this case was driving a very fancy car, an Alfa Romeo. So that's why they picked him out of all the other cars on the freeway to intentionally crash into, to make him vulnerable and then rob him. But as you heard in that piece, rob him of what? And that's what we're going to find out from this piece in Fox 11 next.
By the time I make
It's 12:51 on this Throwback Thursday World Series edition of the John Phillips Show. And which song was this, Randy?
That, of course, is Glenn Campbell's classic, By the Time I Get to Phoenix.
Oh, yes. Well, if you're flying American, you're going to get to Phoenix to connect planes and get stuck there and not end up at your final destination.
At least that airport has some decent bars.
You know what I don't like about the Phoenix airport? If you have the right credit card, you can go to the Admirals Club if you're an American flyer, as I am. And typically with those clubs, you get a nice little snack. You get some serenity, some quiet time. There's the ability to plug in your laptop, charge your phone, have a cocktail, those sorts of things. They don't oversell them. And for the most part, that's how they are. I don't know what the hell went wrong with Phoenix, but you go to the Admirals Club in Phoenix, it's like going into a FEMA camp.
Oh, no.
You can't find a chair. There are long lines for food, even longer lines for the bar. You can't find a place to plug your phone in. No bueno.
So stay away from the Sky Harbor Admirals Club.
All right. Because this story is so bonkers, we have yet another wrap to play, so let's reopen the KABC Crime Blotter.
That's right. Let's go to this part 2 wrap. Wait.
If the cashier is dummy,
Can't not play the Crime Blotter song. Here's Fox 11's take on this insane story of an intentional crash on the 10 freeway that led to an armed robbery on the side of the road.
The CHP says the 4 men were riding in a black Dodge Caravan when they crashed into a black sedan on purpose. Once that car was disabled, they were able to approach the driver. They held him up, armed with a hammer and a crowbar.
Jesus.
They came prepared.
There was also another man going on the eastbound 10 at that hour, and he was rolling on his cell phone. He talked to us.
I think this guy would talk to anybody that would have him.
Did he talk to Spectrum News? That's how we'd really know.
Oh, Spectrum would never cover a story like this. They're too busy talking about inmates dying in the jails.
That car had a flat, another one chasing that. Oh, yeah. Let me catch up.
That's ingenuity.
The video picks up about 1:30 Tuesday afternoon in broad daylight on the busy 10 freeway east near the Crenshaw exit.
Oh, yep, there they go swinging. They swinging.
The voice you hear is a driver also headed east. He spots the black sedan speeding in front of him, driving wildly through LA traffic, and gives chase. His cell phone is rolling.
At first, I thought it was a hit and run gone bad. But it turns out to be something more serious. It was a robbery in progress.
The video is jaw-dropping. Look off to the right of the screen. Several cars on the shoulder of the freeway. Suddenly, a crew of at least 4 people wearing masks, dark clothing, and hoodies exit a van.
This is so horrifying, and because this happens on a busy LA freeway like the 10, which I take every single day, I'm going to be white-knuckling a lot this week.
You know, as a child of the 80s, so many of the television shows that we watched involved crazy, zany car chases, whether it was the Dukes of Hazzard or Chips or Knight Rider, whatever the case may be. I never saw something like this happen on Knight Rider. I never saw something like this happen on Chips. This is something Hollywood hasn't even come up with.
They run toward the wrecked and smoking car disabled on the side of the freeway. Eerily, the driver of the wrecked sedan is seen kneeling with both hands in the air. It appears that they are ransacking the victim's car, a brazen daytime robbery.
It was about 4 or 5 guys with masks. They were ransacking a black car that they forced off the road. He didn't say much, but then they said, "Where's the jewels?"
The jewels?
Well, maybe they knew who the guy was. Maybe they'd staked him out in some other location and thought, okay, we're going to follow this one specific car and we're going to hit him on the freeway, as opposed to just being on the freeway and picking out a car at random.
They knew what they were doing. They found the luxury car. Maybe they tailed him all the way from a jewelry store, hence the "where's the jewels?"
But then they said, "Where's the jewels?" So it turns out they knew exactly who he was.
Our eyewitness, not the only one rolling. Look at this. A man standing outside his car appears to be recording the entire disturbing incident on his cell phone.
If you're wondering why the freeway is so slow, it's because everyone's got their phones out filming the insanity.
Oh, this is like the McDonald's beating down in Harbor City. No one helps out. No one gets involved. No one does anything about it. But, man, they have the incident on tape from every possible angle.
Yeah, none of these people have called 911, but they're getting Instagram likes.
He's just feet away from the swarming crew. You can see the mangled bumper in one shot, and the suspects get dangerously close to the man with the cell phone. But then they jump back into their vehicles and speed away. No injuries reported, but a harrowing event.
I was shocked at first, to be honest, because I haven't seen anything like that personally. I thought I was on a movie set.
I would too.
Fast and Furious, Part 15.
It wasn't a movie, it was real. And in fact, the CHP just confirming all that information just moments ago. They confirmed to us via email. I will tell you that the suspects in this case, they fled in a white Malibu. The CHP says if you have any information, call them. They need help in the investigation.
They're going to need a little more than help.
Okay, look at the through line regarding all of the crimes that we've been talking about lately. Whether it is this crime on the freeway, whether it is what happened in downtown Long Beach where the woman was walking down the street and was sexually assaulted by a naked homeless man, whether it's the smash and grab at the jewelry store in El Monte or the smash and grabs at various malls like the one in Glendale or the San Fernando Valley or the South Bay. These criminals are not discreet. They're not showing up in the dead of night. They have absolutely no problem breaking the law at high noon in areas that are densely populated at probably the peak time of when shoppers are out and about or motorists are out and about doing their own business. They have zero fear of getting caught. They have zero fear of anyone intervening. They know that everything is ripe for the pickings, and they act like it. This is not only a breakdown of whatever's going on in their family and their moral compass. This is a breakdown of society because the cops aren't feared, the DA isn't feared, the prison system isn't feared. They know that they have the power over all the rest of us, and we are all sitting ducks. All right, we've got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour is next. Don't you go anywhere. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Because that's how it is in Los Angeles.